You ever have that feeling where you're just stuck? I don't mean physically stuck, but stuck between two parts of your life. It's like you've said goodbye to who you used to be, but the new you? Yeah, they haven't shown up yet. Well, today we're going to dive into a really cool concept that actually gives a name to this feeling: fuzzy spacetime. It's that hazy, super confusing, but also weirdly powerful zone of transition that, let's be honest, we all have to get through at some point.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to nail down what fuzzy spacetime even is. Then, we'll get into the emotional roller coaster that it sends you on. From there, we'll see why all that chaos is actually the very thing that sparks real change. We'll even zoom out and ask if maybe all of life is a transition. And finally, we'll look for the path that gets us through to the other side.
All right, so first things first. Before we can talk about navigating this place, we kind of need to know what it is. What in the world do we mean when we say fuzzy spacetime?
Okay, so this is not a real place you can, punch into your GPS. It's a state of being. Think about it. It's that moment when the old you has completely dissolved, but the new you hasn't formed yet. It's the fog between yesterday and tomorrow. It's a space where all the old rules just don't seem to apply anymore, and you're just floating in this really profound state of, well, not knowing.
But what does it actually feel like to be there? Because this isn't just some abstract idea. Living inside this space is an intense, emotional ride, and it's pretty much defined by feeling complete opposites at the exact same time.
So the core feeling of fuzzy spacetime is this wild mix of contradictions. One minute, you're feeling this deep anxiety about what's next. But at the same time, there's this little spark of joy about what could be. You're terrified of letting go, but you're also desperately longing for the future. You've got disappointment and hope, frustration and excitement, all swirling around in the same pot. It's a lot.
And this quote just nails how deep that confusion goes. It's not just your emotions that are all over the place. Your whole sense of who you are becomes fluid. One moment you might feel enlightened and powerful, and the next you feel like a total monster, or like you're not even there at all. Your identity is literally up for grabs, which, yeah, it's terrifying, but also incredibly freeing.
So, if this place is so chaotic and confusing, you gotta wonder, what's the point? Well, it turns out this chaos isn't random at all. It's actually the critical stage. You're right on the brink of change, just before a massive transformation is about to happen.
Here's the key idea. Big transformations aren't always gradual. You can stack up all these small changes over time. That's the quantitative part. But eventually, you reach a point where all those little things build up so much tension that something just has to give. A fundamental leap is the only way forward. Fuzzy spacetime is that moment of maximum tension, right before everything snaps into a new shape.
You know that saying, right? It captures this perfectly. The change isn't because of that one last straw. Nope, it's because of the weight of all the straws that came before it. Fuzzy spacetime is that moment when the camel's back starts to creak and groan, just an instant before the big, decisive break that changes everything for good. The source material gives us this amazing dream metaphor for the journey. So picture it. You're standing on the edge of a cliff. You are absolutely paralyzed with fear. Every single instinct is screaming at you. Don't jump. But you realize the only way forward is to just let go. You take that leap of faith into nothing. And what happens next? You don't fall. You fly. You find liberation. The very thing you were so afraid of becomes the source of your freedom.
Okay, now this is where the whole idea just gets huge. What if this in-between state isn't just some temporary phase we go through every now and then? What if it's the fundamental nature of our entire lives?
Just let that one sink in for a second. The human world, our whole reality, is one giant transitional zone. That completely changes this from being a temporary problem we have to solve to, well, the permanent condition of just being human.
And when you look at it this way, life starts to make a bit more sense. It's a transit station. We're not at our final destination. We're always just passing through. And that explains why life is such a constant mix of opposites, right? Joy and sorrow, good and evil, beauty and ugliness. We're living in the very space where all these forces collide. All of us, all the time, are in transition. So, if we're always in this fuzzy state, how are we supposed to live with it? How do we navigate it? Which brings us to the biggest question of all. How do we find the path through all this fuzziness? Now, here's a really important point. Fuzzy spacetime itself isn't good or bad. It's totally neutral territory. The value comes from the direction you decide to move in. If your transformation is leading you upward, toward a better, more aware version of yourself, becoming a Buddha, let's say, then all that chaos is good, it's productive. But if it's leading you downward, it's destructive. The choice of direction, that's everything.
And hey, the good news is we don't always have to make that journey alone. The source points out two key types of support. First, there's the guardian. Think of this as a protective force. It could be a person, a belief, or even your own inner strength that just holds you steady and stops you from backing down when you get scared. And then there's the push. That's the final nudge, the last straw that makes staying where you are impossible and forces you over the edge into your new reality.
And this is really the ultimate takeaway. It all boils down to this. Any meaningful change, any real growth, means you have to enter this uncertain, chaotic, and often painful space. If you want to transform, you've got to be willing to get a little lost in the fog. Because avoiding the fuzziness, that's just another way of choosing to stay exactly the same.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this question. We all have transformations waiting for us, some big, some small. If that change really does require a leap of faith into the unknown, just take a second and ask yourself, what is your cliff? And what would it take for you to finally jump?